Another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest in the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to Apply. All right, so today I have Matthew Gardner on the line, and he is
Good
founder
morning.
of San Diego Payment Processing and also one of the co-hosts of the Serial Podcast. Matthew, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Adam. Small correction there. The podcast is called the Serial Entrepreneur Podcast. It's not just about cereal, it's about business and the pun of the name Serial Entrepreneur.
Come on, the Serial Entrepreneur Podcast. How could I forget that part? And I understand you'll be having a bowl of cereal today. Come on.
That's right. Yeah, thank you for asking. Today, I brought with me this weird mashup cereal. It's Fruit Loops and Frosted Flakes, because if you're too lazy to buy both boxes, you can just buy this bag. And just to show you how little committed this company is to this cereal, they didn't even bother making a box. They just put it in one of these cheap bags. But hey, I fell for it, and so I'm going to try it because I like both of these cereals individually, but I've never had the mashup. So
awesome.
A little bit in my bowl there, and we'll see how it goes.
So Matthew, excited to have you on the show today and to really talk about the launch of the Serial Entrepreneur Podcast, as well as San Diego Payment Processing and all the great work that you're doing for your clients there. But before we do, we'll start this episode the way that we start them all, with our Mission Matters Minute. So Matthew, we at Mission Matters, we amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. That's our mission. Mm-hmm. Matthew, what mission matters to you?
I love this question. So people, that's the single word answer to that, is people. And I realized that my passion for business was born in me, right? And I love all things business. I really do. And I'm not just saying that because of the serial entrepreneur thing. I've got several businesses now, and this always comes down to the people behind it. And there's the customers, there's those people. And I love solving issues. I love meeting the needs. I love making smiles on the customers' faces. But then there's the employees, the people that you work with, your team members, your business partners. You get to really have this new and deep relationship in your life with people there on that angle as well. And then there's the people on the back end. It takes a village to build a business. You have all sorts of accountants and insurance people and legal help and all these great professionals that you get to meet and work with and learn through and just experience a new life through them. And so really, the whole ecosystem of business truly does revolve around people. And you think about, even money itself, it's really just an extension of somebody's will. That's people itself as well. Money doesn't even hardly exist if you get philosophical about it. It all just revolves around people. And I'm such a people person. I get a kick out of, growing and meeting and being with people. And so it really fuels my fire.
So at what point, and I don't know if there was a point or if it was a transition or just kind of a buildup, but when did you know that entrepreneurship was for you?
Oh, good cereal, by the way. I like it. It's pretty good. When did I know that? Sorry, I was eating cereal. Can you repeat the question?
So when did you know that entrepreneurship was for you? When did you know it was that thing that you're just you were drawn to it? I obviously like people, but when did you know that you're oh man, I have to be an entrepreneur. This is for me.
That's such a great question, because I didn't know for a long time, and it kept following me around, trying to remind me that, hey, you're a business-minded person. You're an entrepreneur type, whatever moniker you want to add to it. But I kept trying to do so many other things. Growing up as a kid, I wanted to be a doctor or an astronaut. Finally, coming from a Christian home and really latching on to Christianity, I wanted to be a pastor for a long time. And I even went to college to try to be a pastor, ended up taking more theater classes in the end. And then I dropped out of college altogether. I've been to 5 different colleges, maybe 6 now in my lifetime, dropped out several times, all for the sake of business. And business kept following me around. It was my senior project was I started a business. And I wanted to be here with my uncle to start to help him with his business and eventually grow and take over as owner of the rental shop business, kind of like the surf equipment you see behind me here. And then I kept finding myself starting new businesses. You see an opportunity, you see a place that you can help people and meet a need. And to me, just business brings such joy and fulfillment. And it's a puzzle. I'm a puzzle guy. I love challenges and puzzles and figuring things out. And it meets that need in my brain too. And so it it was this fire that was inside of me that just wasn't so obvious, even though it was ridiculously obvious, but probably to anybody looking in, outside in. But to me, I just kept trying to do other things, and business was just always there. And I finally did a little introspection after so many obvious years, and hey, maybe I'm a business person. And so 4 or 5, 6 businesses later, here I am.
Man, what a story. And I feel like there's a lot of people that'll watch this that maybe they've always had that itch, or they've always wanted to go the business route and start a business, be an entrepreneur. And I don't mean, by the way, just by age, because I know there's many corporate people that at some point, they may be senior level executives and they choose to transition into entrepreneurship later in their career. There's also people that'll watch this that'll do it, that right out of college, like you said, they're just kind of driven towards that. But, we all learn as entrepreneurs from the ups, the downs, sideways, everything in between. One thing I know about entrepreneurship is it's definitely not the smoothest path. So what kind of advice would you give to those that are out there, obviously with the benefit of hindsight, starting businesses, many businesses yourself? Like, what kind of advice would you say to those would-be entrepreneurs that are going out there and trying to make a difference?
I would say you gave the best advice just now, and you mentioned the word path. It's not the easiest path. It's a very bumpy road. And I think that is the best way to explain it, because when you're a business owner, you're carving a new path. Nobody made that path. You're the one making the path, and you're the one going through that brush. You're the one that's saying, this is the right way to go. This is the way that everybody should follow me now that I'm creating this path. They should now follow this path that I've beaten down. That's what a business owner is. And that's the tough part, is that you might not be going in the right direction. You have to do a lot of work to figure that out. And you don't have a whole lot of encouragement. There aren't that many business owners out there, and it's not for everybody. And so you have to be very self-motivated. You have to just believe in your heart that you're going the right direction, and have that confirmed through, facts and figures and the vetting process, which is what we do on our podcast. Yeah. And that it all plays into that important part of creating a new path for people to follow you with. You're now the leader. You're the person creating that new system, that new path, that new business, and maybe it's been done before, but you have your own take on it still. You have your own path that might be similar to someone else's path, but it's still your path that you need to create. So it's really such a mental shift that you need to adopt to say, I'm going to be a business owner. I'm going to charge forward. I'm going to create that new path. It's not going to feel natural. It's not going to feel easy. But you need to be able to charge forward anyway.
Yeah. It's great advice. And I think it's also a good transition to your podcast. So the Serial Entrepreneur Podcast, I have to tell you. So first off, I'll start this with a confession. So we do these meetings all the time. Obviously, I'm doing screen shares and I'm typing a lot of times in front of clients and new shows that we're bringing on. And the word serial or serial entrepreneur comes up pretty often. Yeah. And I tell you right now, Matthew, you and your show ruined my spelling of the word serial. I have typed serial instead of cereal with an S. So I'm talking, Matt, our director of agency, can attest, minimum 5 times. Every time he starts laughing because he's like, Adam, it's the wrong cereal again. Yep. And then I have to explain to clients. And then I pull up your show on our website. So on missionmatters.com, I pull up your show and I'm like, no, you don't understand. I used to know how to spell the name cereal until this show came out. It's just so catchy and it made so much sense. The title, like the concept, like what caused you to launch this?
Well, first of all, I mean, if it's not obvious by now, I'm a jokester. I love having fun. I've been saying dad jokes and puns since my childhood, so I've got lots of practice. Now that I finally am a dad, it just seems slightly more appropriate for people that listen on. But I just love to have fun. I love to have a great time, and part of that is just making light and levity of life and everything around you. And you notice these, funny language inconsistencies sometimes. There's 2 different words that sound exactly the same, and now you can make fun with it. You can have fun with it, or you can create a whole new business venture out of it based on a podcast based solely on the pun. I'm not the first person to do it, but I definitely wanted to do it and found out that that name wasn't legally taken, and so we ran with it. And I decided that, okay, cool. Well, now it's mine because I love it, and I love cereal anyway, so it fit. I eat cereal all the time before the show. It's a shtick, and so I enjoy eating cereal, and I decided to, when you create a podcast, you could just talk about your profession. You could just talk about what it is you do and what it is you're there for your podcast. But to me, that's just boring, and I wanted to have more fun with it. And I wanted to open up my personality and the other co-hosts' personalities with it. And I believe that starting out with cereal, starting out with what do you like about cereal? Well, Olga doesn't eat cereal; she drinks coffee. You know, we make fun of each other for that. That peels back the curtain a little bit and allows people to see our real lives and our humanity. And I think that's often missed in the business world. You just see facts and figures and data and buildings and all this stuff. You don't see real people. And again, business to me is all about people. I want people to see the real person behind me. I think it's such an important part of business. And I wanted to, I guess, share the people part of business. And the cereal is sort of a avenue for that.
It's awesome. And big shout out to Olga. We got to get Olga on the show as well. So I definitely want to have her come on the show and introduce her to my audience as well. Because this is for everybody that's been watching this show for a long time. You know that I love promoting podcasters. I love promoting podcasts. I think the podcast community and just the format as a whole, the ability to get content out there, to interact, to create these meaningful dialogues, and for us all to learn from and benefit from them. I think it's a magical thing. It's a great time period in life, in my opinion, that podcasts are really catching steam and many more people are being introduced to them. That being said, Matthew, so a lot of different ways to get content out, and I'm not against social media. I'm not against blogs. I'm not against anything really, but the podcast to me, like why go that route? Like, why was that important to you?
You know, I think I just personally connected with podcasts really well, and I realized that a lot of people do. It's a real popular avenue. Yeah. So there's the popularity aspect of it. If it was just me that liked it and nobody else, maybe I wouldn't have done it. But I really latched onto it. You know, we spend a lot of time in our cars and just doing mundane tasks and, you know, like washing dishes or something. And I'll turn on a podcast when I'm needing a little extra brain stimulation, or I'd want to take advantage of some dead time and do a little bit of learning or a little bit of laughing, you know, depending on what kind of podcast you're turning on. And I thought that just matched really well with what I wanted to accomplish. Now, I've always had this serial entrepreneur business idea. I thought that doing what we do on the podcast was a great idea that I wanted to pursue someday. But, you know, you back burner things so often, and you just don't take that step, that plunge, because you just stick it in that good ideas pile and leave it alone. And it was you and your outreach to me that kind of just gave me permission to reach back there and to grab that idea and just run with it and go with it and make that step forward and take the time, you know, and the commitment and the investment to make it happen. And sometimes you just need that urge and that push from other people. And it was you and your company, Mission Matters, that gave me basically just an excuse or reason to do what I really wanted to do anyway.
Oh, it's awesome. And we're thrilled to have you on our website as well, and to help you with distribution on that and do all we can to make the show a success. I love every time I pull up our webpage and I see that big old cereal bowl that's messing up my spelling of the word cereal. I'm in. Like, your podcast cover, classic, and one of my favorites.
Stands out
on the site.
That's good. I'm glad to hear it stands out.
Let's get into a little bit about the content and like your vision and scope for the show. And I know, by the way, shows are always evolving. They're always changing. The types of guests, the things that you plan out. I mean, it's just the natural evolution of the way shows work. But you know, we're recording this for perspective for everybody watching this. We recorded this in February of 2022. So I would say, you know, what's your vision going forward for the show overall? Like the type of content you want to bring to your audience?
So I believe that the process of looking at a new business idea and vetting it out and screening it and analyzing everything, all the data and the projections and everything, I think that's a really fun process. And I've done it several times in my own life now. And I realized that the people that I have been able to share that with, they've really enjoyed it. They got a kick out of the stories. They get a kick out of the obstacles that we have to overcome and the dilemmas that we face and the successes that we reach and just the surprises and opportunities and detriments. Everything is just, it's like a fun little reality show. And I thought this just needed a bigger audience, this whole process. And it's not just about, you know, trying to start new businesses and making more money for more people, but it's opening up that process. And what gives me joy about having and starting and looking at a new business, I thought could just be shared with the world. You know, aside from that, the fringe benefits for me and Olga is that we get a chance to showcase our professional skills in our respective professions. I myself, I have my credit card processing business, and I get to show off, what I can do and all the different flexible ways you can take payments. Mm-hmm. And Olga, she's a marketing professional. She has a great marketing business, Fotex Labs, and she gets to showcase how well and how good and how knowledgeable she is about marketing, and other people that might need her services can now see it in real time and not just hear her talk wonderful things about herself, but really see her marketing chops in action.
It's awesome. It's awesome. It's great. And I that's another thing I love about the podcast is that you get to share. So it's a two-way thing. Mm-hmm. So meaning you're sharing authentically with the guest. The audience gets to participate. They get to listen. They get to, send their feedback in. And it's just fun to watch it grow and the community come around something like a podcast or a theme or even an episode. I think it's really cool. So let's go. And now that you bring up San Diego Payment Processing, let's talk a little bit more about your business. So tell us a little bit more about the company.
Well, thank you. Yeah. So I started this out of an act of frustration after, having different businesses in the past and having different needs for taking credit cards for those businesses, because that's the main way almost every business takes payments nowadays is by credit cards.
Yeah.
It can be a real frustrating process, and working with the agents is just like, can be pulling teeth sometimes, or it's just not always fun, and I've had some great agents in the past. I'm not, downplaying them or the relationship that they've had in my business, but I never felt like anybody was really in my corner. I felt like they were there to sell me an account, and there was a little bit of a negotiating, butting heads there for prices. And then you get it all set up. And then if you have a problem, then you got to call customer service, not the person that helped you with the account. And, good luck with them, especially if it's on a weekend. And my businesses are very weekend heavy. Yeah. And maybe the solution was good for you. Maybe it's not. You don't know what other options are out there. You don't know how these solutions can grow with your business necessarily. And then if you want to start a website, well, now we're talking about e-commerce. That's a whole nother game, and a lot of education. And I had to just do a lot of research on my own. Nobody was helping me out with that. And so all that's a very frustrating sort of situation. And I found myself, I worked myself out of a job with my rental business. I have 2 rental shops renting bikes and surfboards. And the staff had just written me off the schedule, and it's been a very successful business, still is. And we're very thankful for that. I had another business, a surf business called Liquid Foundation. That's what these boards behind me from. And I was printing shirts for Liquid Foundation, and I had the shirt printer, and I just thought this would be a cool thing to get into, is printing my own shirts. It was cool, but man, it was a nightmare. You sweat all day and you smell chemicals, and it's not fun. There's a reason they have automatic machines for this nowadays. And so, and then at the end of the day, I spent all day in that sweaty little shop, and I might have made an extra $100. It just didn't feel very fulfilling for me to do things that way. And I thought there's got to be something else I can do that's more productive with my time, and something that I can spend more time with my family, and something that I can improve the situation of. And to me, that's a big important part, is where is there a need? Where is there something that could be done better than is what is currently being done? Because I'm not a complainer type. I'd rather do something about it than complain about it. And the same answer just kept popping into my head. And I, frustratingly jumped into it because I didn't want to get into something that I was frustrated with. But then I realized that I can make it better. I can answer these needs from a client's perspective, from my own perspective. Having these needs, having them not being met in the way that I was hoping that they could have been, I can now offer it to other business owners from a point of understanding, from a point of getting their frustration. At the very least, just having a shoulder to cry on when things go wrong. That's all I wanted, and I headlined the customer service aspect, that humanity aspect of what I do, because it seems so seldom headlined in this industry. And it's so sad how easy it is to get in this business. You just sign up with a processor and you can start selling accounts. You don't need any kind of training or specialized education in, the legal aspects or the banking world or anything that has to do with credit cards. You just do it, and they hope that you'll sell some accounts for them and call it a day. So a lot of self-education. And that's, learned why it was done so badly for so long because of that reason. And so I just spent a good few years educating myself about it, writing accounts where I could. But really just doing my best to help people and be there for them in a real and human way.
What are some of the, and I'll tell you where this question's coming from. A lot of times people accept the status quo because, you don't know what you don't know, right? So when you think of payment processing, there's a lot of people that are watching this that are maybe are frustrated with the current system or with the current way maybe things are going for them in relation to this, but they don't necessarily know that there could be another way or another even just experience, right, of working with somebody. Like, you don't know what you don't know. So like, what are some, as you were doing this research, as you were kind of acclimating yourself, obviously you're way further along right now in your career with your clientele, but as you were going through this processing, understanding there was a better way, like what are some of the things that you learned?
Yeah, so I learned that credit cards themselves and debit cards as well. They all have this wholesale rate that everybody has to pay. Even the big companies, they all have to pay the same wholesale rate to the card brands and the banks. And so everyone's kind of on this level playing field. No one can really outprice each other.
Yeah.
No matter how you fry it, it's all going to kind of come out the same. So that was really enlightening, and it allowed me to approach it from not just a competitive pricing model, but a what am I here to offer you model. What kind of bang can I give you for that buck that you're going to have to pay, or somebody's going to have to pay? And so, a lot of times the frustration is just the price tag. Processing is a percentage based on your revenue. So if you make $1 million, then you'll have to pay $30,000 of that in processing fees or something around that. If you're paying 3%, that's just easy math. And so there's ways around that. There's ways that your customers can pay the processing fees as well. And it's negligible for them, but then you save yourself 30 grand. That's in many cases, that's a wonderful solution, is to have a surcharging system or a cash discount system where your customers are paying those fees. Again, negligible for them, but for you, a huge deal. I did that with my own company and saved us a ton of money. So that can be it. Sometimes it's just a good hardware upgrade. You got a really nice machine. It can solve so many issues with your workflow situation, with sparsing out tips to your employees, with being able to check your data and check your favorite customers and keep in contact with your customers, and be able to take different types of payments like Apple Pay, having people sign on a screen rather than a piece of paper. So you can save a lot of paper and the frustration of tearing off pieces of paper and handing it to somebody and doing that whole little desk pen paper dance. Just a good little terminal upgrade can make a world of difference to your pay at counter situation. Or one of my favorite things to do is one of my main client specializations is tradespeople, people that are contractors or people that are doing a lot of traveling, maybe caterers or window washers or landscapers. They have a hard time billing people. They either need like a little phone dongle that they can scan a credit card on that doesn't look very professional, that seems a little wonky and weird, or they're writing down credit card numbers on a piece of paper and taking it home and handing it around their office, and that's not cool either because the customer doesn't like that. I've had that happen to me a few times, and it's not very comforting to have someone write down my credit card number. So there's some really great solutions through payment gateways out there where you can send somebody an invoice and they can pay for that invoice right on their phone or right through their email. And it's just highlighted out everything they're paying for. They can pay at their leisure with it as well. So it really answers a big concern there with the tradespeople. And I've set that up, and that's one of my client verticals, as my industry might say, is tradespeople and contractors. They tend to love systems like that.
What are the type of businesses and business owners you work with? Is it pretty much industry agnostic? Is it a certain size, only like large companies? You also work with the small business owner? Like, give us a flavor for the types of businesses that you help.
Well, thank you. Yeah, so it is fairly industry agnostic, and I can help anybody, just about anybody that needs to take a credit card. There's a few industries that are prohibited, like cannabis, although that might be changing soon. But for the most part, anybody that's got a business that needs to take credit cards, I can help. Now, that being said, I'm not great with restaurants, and I would love to help out a restaurant. And I have a few restaurant clients, but it's not my specialization. It's not my main wheelhouse, because I feel like it's important to really understand the business. And I have never owned a restaurant myself. I have some restaurateur friends, and I've learned a few things here and there. But there's just better people that might be better fits for credit card processing in restaurants. But instead, like I mentioned before, I'm great with pay at counter situations. So that might be a deli, it might be a clothing store, it might be a gun store or specialty store like that. Anything where you're going up to a counter and you're paying for it. That's a great client for me, and I have some great solutions to help with them and meet their needs and whatever they're facing. And then, of course, the payment gateway system, the invoicing system, that's a great way to meet the needs of the contractors and tradespeople, like I mentioned before. That's another specialization I have. So that two-pronged fork. Sorry, I'm getting my metaphors mixed up. Don't think I'm a forked tongue person. that the two-pronged fork is sort of my two specializations in my industry.
Awesome. So Matthew, I just have to say it's been great having you on the show. I mean, learning more about the Serial Entrepreneur podcast, which I'm thrilled about. I'm happy to do distribution for San Diego Payment Processing. I know that business is growing, have a lot of clients there, and looking to help more. Of course, I just have to ask, what's next? I mean, what's next for you? What's next for this serial entrepreneur lifestyle of businesses? Like, what's next?
Thank you. Well, first, what's next is another bite of cereal. Still a little bit crunchy. It's getting soggier, but it still tastes good. I actually didn't think I was going to like this, but I do. So there's that. No, I love to joke, and so bear with me here. So far I have 4 businesses, and I'm working on 2 others. And now I should say I have 5 businesses because the podcast is in and of itself a business, and that would be a 5th one. Currently, to list off what I have and what I'm still doing, what I'm still managing, is the rental shop business. I have 2 shops. That counts as one business. I have the surf brand, Liquid Foundation. I also make beginner and foam surfboards and bodyboards, and I have my own brand for that called Walk on Water Surf. It's a newer surf venture, but it's really taken off really well. We've got lots of clients that buy our wholesale boards, and we sell a lot of retail boards online as well. So that's been a great one. Really into that, except for the shipping costs. That can be annoying. And then I have of course, San Diego Payment Processing, which we mentioned before. So those are my 5 businesses now. But I'm starting some software. I'm creating a payment software. It kind of goes with my payment processing system, but it's in and of itself a whole new software. It's an automated invoicing system with integrated, not just integrated payments, but integrated payment authorization forms, which is something that's kind of missing from the industry right now. So that's a new venture that I'm working on. And of course, we just passed on the podcast the first business that we tackled, which is the eFoil board. And so it's a board that has an electric motor attached to it that is on this wing underwater, and it lifts your whole board out of the water, and you're kind of just floating in air above the water, and you're zooming along at like 25 miles an hour. And we passed this as a business where we would give guided lessons and tours to people that want to learn how to do eFoil boarding. Doing this as a business. And so it passed our muster on the podcast. We went through a 4-episode analyzation of this business, and we love it, and it makes sense, and the numbers work out, and it's very marketable. So we're excited to see how the investors feel about it now, because that's the true final test is, are we going to get enough investor funding to cover the startup costs that we need to actually launch this business? And that's our final test. And so far, we've got some great responses. We've got some investment already. So we're just looking forward to seeing that grow and getting us to be able to eventually launch that business. So that's also what's next. So really excited about that. And then I have to mention, I love being a father and a family person. We had just yesterday was Valentine's Day as of when we're recording this. And I just love so much about being a family person and seeing my kids' eyes light up when they're getting a pair of heart-shaped sunglasses or, a little bit extra candy or something like that, and watching mom get some really cool gifts as well. And so it just, that's the big why for a lot of us is the family and the people that we're here with. It just means so much to me, and I love that part too.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing. And if somebody is watching this or listening to this and they want to connect and learn more about San Diego Payment Processing, or listen to the Serial Entrepreneur podcast, or just connect with you and your team overall, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, thank you. So for the podcast, the website is theserialpodcast.com. We didn't want people to have to spell entrepreneur, so we left that out. Theserialpodcast.com is the website there. They can click on every episode that we have posted on the website. They can leave comments about, whatever's on their mind about the businesses that they heard. If they have any ideas of their own, they can pitch it. We've already had a submission for the next guest on our show. So that was exciting. People are connecting with us there. So theserialpodcast.com is a great way to connect with the podcast itself. And of course, you can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and of course on the Mission Matters website. And then San Diego Payment Processing.com. Sorry for the long URL, but it makes sense for marketing purposes. San Diego Payment Processing.com is where you can find out more about me and my profession when it comes to credit card processing, ACH processing, invoicing, website management, all sorts of fun stuff. I got it all there on the website. Rental shops is cheap-rental.com, and Liquid Foundation. Oh, sorry, lfsurf.com for the other website, and wowsurfboards.com for my walk on water surfboards. Really excited about that new business right now too. So yeah, a lot of websites to throw your way, but check them all out and help our stats. Leave us some good reviews, and hopefully you can enjoy as much as we do.
Yeah, that's awesome. And for the listeners, don't worry. I know that was a lot of websites, but we're going to put them all in the show notes. So you don't have to worry. Just check out the show notes, click them on what makes sense for you to go visit. And definitely go check out what Matthew and his team are doing, because a lot of great work. And speaking of the listeners, if this is your first time listening to Mission Matters or engaging with our platform, we're all about bringing on entrepreneurs, executives, and really just mission-based individuals that have something to share with the world, whether it's in business, the marketplace, or they're just great people. If that's the kind of content that you're into, we definitely invite you to hit that subscribe button, because again, we have many more mission-based individuals coming on the line, and we don't want you to miss a thing. And Matthew, really just wishing you much more continued success, and thanks again for coming on the show.
Well, thank you for having me, and great continued success for yourself as well. Thank you for having me on the show, and we'll see you on our podcast as well.
All right.